cyclocross friends, and welcome back to Cyclocross Television. It's been a minute, but we now have some real-life cyclocross to talk about. For this episode, we're traveling to Switzerland to look at the EKZ CrossTour opening event from Baden. The Baden track, it's split into two distinct halves. We got the long road grass and gravel power sections that favor the Watt monsters in the field, and then the technical tourney half that favors the bike handlers. So let's get to the action and see who comes out on top. Starting with the women's race, and right off the bat, you can see this is not your typical start grid for a UCI C1 event. The mandatory 8 rows across has been reduced to 6, and it's pretty tight fit in the start-finish stretch. The close quarters definitely put a premium on starting position, as you can see the field stringing out from the gun. From the start, the field heads into the long uphill power sections. The wide open stretches with no course tape affords those with less than stellar starting position the opportunity to improve their position, and nowhere is this more evident than the turbo boost Elizabeth Brando engages to move up the right-hand side from 6 back to the lead. Going off the beaten path and taking it 5 wide at the pointy end, Brando leaves the leaders virtually standing still. Put a pin on this move and this location as we move forward. Pro mountain biker Brando is right at home in the power sections, but it's the young gun, Nicole Goldie, showing off her superior cyclocross skills and making the pass at the planks. Goldie is then able to dictate the pace through the technical turns and establish a nice gap. My favorite feature on the Baden track is the downhill S-turn. Goldie is first to the drop and sets up nice and wide before railing the descent and keeping speed the whole way. Nicole Kohler in second place takes a similar line, but watch Brando as she goes wide and isn't able to maintain momentum. Put your second pin here for later in the race. The final obstacle on the track is a set of stairs that comes right before the finishing stretch. Goldie, who won the Swiss Junior National Championship, still leads with Kohler and Brando chasing. One of the riders we were expecting to see at the front of the race is French national champ Marion Ribero. She's fallen off the pace after being at the front early. A quick check of her Instagram feed shed some light onto her performance. Sick all week and was having problems breathing during the race. Back to the action and picking up that pin we set here on the last lap. Brando is in her comfort zone as she once again closes a big gap, catches Kohler, and sets her sights on Goldie, who's still in the lead. The third rule of cyclocross, right after the sprint is at the beginning and rubbing is racing, is that if your rival is stronger through a section of the course, make sure you are ahead going into that feature. Brando, being the consummate pro, does just that and jumps in front of Goldie going into the planks and into the technical turns. The move works as Goldie is forced to check up on the turns and even go foot down behind the slower Brando. Once the course opens back up, Brando is able to get a few bike lengths. But it doesn't last long as Goldie shows some top-notch skill in riding the obstacles and making the pass on the dismounted Brando. Brando fights back, regains the lead to hit the S-turn descent first. She looks to be in the driver's seat, but that low line we talked about last lap leaves the door wide open, and Goldie takes advantage, shooting through the high line and regaining the lead. Okay, pick up that second pin. As great as Goldie's technical prowess, as soon as we are back in the power sections, Brando is able to regain the lead. After a stellar 2 laps, Goldie starts to fade a bit and Kohler is there to take up the chase. A third of the way into the race, pre-race favorite Ribero was 30 seconds down along with Sophie de Boer. Kohler kept things close for a while, closing the gap on the descent, but once Brando was free to pedal, she continued to increase her lead. The top 3 time trial to the end from this point on, with Brando taking the win, Kohler coming in second, and Goldie landing in third. As we take a look at the top 10, we're going to move on to the men's race, which featured Swiss hopeful U23 Worlds runner-up Kevin Kuhn, Timo Rug, Loris Rouet, and MTB stars Lars Forster and Lucas Flukiger. Tom Mason, Vincent Bastens, and Lander Locks also made the trip for opening day. But despite all those names, all eyes were on the debut of the junior world champ Thibaut Nice. The next one, making his debut in the elite field as a Lion, he was going to be watched closer than anyone else in this race. At the gun, it is a dead-on sprint and the race is strung out before they get to the second turn. Thibaut is stuck in 20th and will have his work cut out for him as we progress. On the long power section, and Kevin Kuhn channels Elizabeth Brando and makes a huge move on the outside, going from 8th to 1st. Kuhn continues to lead the field over the planks and through the technical sections. Nice is in 18th and moving up. Kuhn is looking strong, but with more than 55 minutes of racing left, he puts the matchbook away and looks for some help at the front. Boros obliges and takes over the lead. At the stairs for the first time, and Thibaut is in 11th, right on the Swiss champ Lars Forster's wheel. Back on the straights, and Kuhn is back on the front, trying to whittle down the group to a more manageable number. Over the planks, and Kuhn still leaves with Boros and a brood of Belgian hens in pursuit. Forster has moved up to 9th, with Thibaut still on his wheel. As Kuhn gets some breathing room, watch his line at the S descent. He pushes the tape as far as he can to set up the high line and take as much speed as possible into the final turn. That move catapults him ahead and really opens the gap. Forster, meanwhile, is coming up fast from behind with Thibaut on his wheel and settles into the chase group. Skipping ahead to just around the halfway mark, and Kuhn is back on the front, and he's built a lead of close to a half minute with Vinny Bastians leading the chase to bring him back. After a few laps off the front, the chase has finally reeled Kuhn back in. Once Kuhn realized that Bastians and Rouge are there, he takes the foot off the pedal and recovers for a few seconds. This allows Lars Forster, who still was a couple seconds back, to start closing in on the leaders. Once in the power section, Forster steps on the gas and is able to muscle his way to within dangling distance of the front group. Lars Forster, the Swiss dangler. And at the planks, Vinny Bastians has taken over the lead, and we can stop the play, spot the mountain biker. Hint, he's the only one dismounting. Cyclocross, there are actual skills here. The leaders are content to mark each other, which gives the opportunity for Rollier to fight his way to the front four. After following wheels for a bit, Kuhn makes his way back to the front to show everyone how to ride the descent, and the leaders all seem to agree. That's the line they take. Everybody's dialed in. No longer the dangler, Forster puts in an exploratory dig at the pits, and Bastian shuts it down almost immediately. But into the final third of the race, and Forster continues to lead. Rollier is dropped off the pace and is joined by Lucas Flukiger, who has made an amazing comeback. Why amazing, you may ask? Well, let's take a look. Early on, Fluky had his issues on the stairs. He followed that up with his Lloyd Doppler impersonation over the planks. And finally, Fluky suffered a mechanical, had no pit bike, had no one working in the pit for him, had to fix it himself, and still was able to catch the lead group and be in contention for the win. We are back at the front, and Bastians has taken advantage of the dismounting Forster and has attacked off the front. Bastian gets a gap as Kuhn and Rouge chase him down. Forster, Flukiger, and Rollier are farther back. With the lap card ticking down, Bastians continues to lead, and Lars Forster can sense the danger. He heads out to chase him down, and when he gets to those power sections, Forster reels in Bastians, hits the turbo boost, and goes to the front. But only for a second, as Kevin Kuhn, still with some matches left in that book, is able to once again take control of this race. It's now the penultimate lap, and Kuhn is putting in another attack, trying to go solo for the remainder of this race. As we come out of the shadows and onto the road, Forster drops the hammer. Fluky covers the move, and Kuhn drags Bastians back to the wheels. As soon as they are together, Forster goes again. He's used that section at the pits to his advantage on several occasions and is looking to make it stick here. We're at the bell, and Forster is able to increase his lead to 14 seconds. He's rolling and looks uncatchable, which means that Fluky, Kuhn, and Bastians are now starting to think about the race for second. And in the end, Lars Forster goes from dangler to victor to take the first cyclocross victory of the season at Baden. And not too far behind him, Kevin Kuhn leads out to sprint on this really tight finishing stretch. Fluky knows there's no room to come around and sits up as Bastians pips Kuhn at the line. And there you have it. As you take a look at the top 10, I want to thank the EKZ CrossTour and its sponsors for bringing back cyclocross and giving us the opportunity to cover it. Links to the full replays of the races we talked about here today are available below in the show notes. And I want to thank you for tuning in. Please click on the subscribe button for the Wide Angle Podium channel and give us a thumbs up, cyclocross friends.